Hello there folks, and welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now, as you know, we like to undertake reviews of quality objects which may be of use to you if you're interested in an item of that nature. And I do occasionally get contacted by watch manufacturers, often startups and new companies, offering to send me a watch to do a review. And up to this point, I have declined all of them because there was nothing which sparked my interest, nothing which I thought that's actually something I would want to wear. But all that has changed because a few weeks ago, I was contacted by a company which was new to me, not heard of it before, called Navada Grenchen. And I was, of a mind to say no, not interested. But before I did a little bit of research. I looked up the company, saw something which really interested me, and I reached out to them. And indeed, they have sent me a piece for review. Now, it's important you understand before we begin, this watch is on loan to me. It's not a gift, it hasn't been provided for me free of charge. Once I've concluded this review, it'll be sent back. So I've got no skin in the game here. There's no links below, which is an affiliate link, so if you end up buying the watch, I'll get a kickback. Absolutely nothing at all. This is an unbiased, totally independent review of this watch. It's important that you know that from the get-go. So I've been wearing this watch for around about 2 weeks now, every day over that period of time, exclusively. I've not worn anything else, so I have really put this watch through its paces in my ordinary daily activities. So let me tell you about this watch. Now, for us gentlemen, when we purchase a watch, there's more to it than just the aesthetics. Yes, of course, that's the primary thing, but for me, I like to know a bit about the backstory, the heritage of a watch, because generally speaking, when we buy a watch, we look for something which mirrors our own ethos in life. So if you're sporty, rugged, you choose watches which embody that. If you are sartorially elegant or classical in nature, you choose watches which definitely lean in that direction. And Navada Grenchen is a company which has been around since 1926, and I think you would describe it as an organisation, a brand which definitely leans towards rugged, adventurous, innovative in its original iteration. The company brought many watches to the marketplace. The particular watch we're looking at today is their Depthmaster model, which was originally brought into production in the mid-1960s. Now, the company continued until the 1980s, when unfortunately it became financially inviable, and eventually it went into abeyance, and it sort of languished in no man's land, not producing any watches, just existing as a brand identity for a number of years. Until just a few years ago, a collaboration took place between two chief executive officers of renowned watch companies from Switzerland, and they decided to revitalize this brand. They purchased the brand identity, Navada Grenchen, with its whole back catalogue of designs, and they have reintroduced a number of their more iconic and classic watches from the past and brought them bang up to date using modern day technology. So let's bring the camera in a little bit closer. You can have a look at the watch and I'll talk you through some of its statistics. Okay, so this is the piece that I've been testing, been on my wrist exclusively for the last 2 weeks. And this is known as the Navada Grenchen Depthmaster. This is the white PACMAN version, and I'll explain where that all comes from in a moment. As I say, this is a faithful reissue of the original Depthmaster that was launched in 1965 and actually was designed by the same chap who designed the Rolex Oyster case and also the Panerai Luminor case, chap by the name of Charles Spillman. And I have to say, to my eye, there is an element of the Panerai DNA in evidence when we look at this piece. In fact, I understand that the watch is occasionally referred to as the baby Panerai, and I absolutely get that. So let's talk about the statistics, the importance. So across the dial, this piece measures 39 millimeters, making it quite compact really, and ideal if you are perhaps something on the medium to smaller wrist size. Thickness wise, we're looking at 13 millimeters, so by no means is it a huge chunk of watch at all. And when we're looking at it at the sideways profile, actually the lug to lug size is a reasonably compact 47 millimeters, which means, you know, fits across most people's wrists. The lug size, 20 millimeters, so it'll be ideal for changing different straps, bracelets. In fact, the model comes on a number of different strap options, and makes it great as something of the ability to change its appearance from time to time. Now, looking at the watch, the most striking thing is, of course, its appearance, and what we see here is a stainless steel cushion shaped case with an aluminium bezel atop it, you know, as you can see, looking pretty good. It's a unidirectional bezel. So as you can see, turn it around and we are able to time our dive or whatever we seek to do with that bezel, with a 15 millimeter scale as well to help us doing that. So a pretty good all-round piece. A combination of brushed finishing and some polished on the sides. A solid case back with very small amount of engraving on the back, so nothing of particular note to see. You'll notice it's got drill through lugs, which makes that changing of straps even easier should you wish to do so. Now, inside this watch beats the heart of the Sellita automatic movement. It's one of the more rugged and reliable watch movements that you'll find, you know, utilized by many of the Swiss brands, Oris, Tag Heuer, Sin. They're all customers of the Sellita company, which has been around since 1950, you know, an out-and-out Swiss movement manufacturer. Looking at the and I should say, sorry, that does give us a 38-hour power reserve. It's an automatic watch, obviously, so nice to know that it'll tick on for the best part of a couple of days if we take it off and just put it down. Looking at the actual dial, it's a black dial underneath a sapphire crystal, as you would imagine, for a high quality watch of this nature. And that black sapphire dial has what they call the PACMAN indices. Now, they call it the PACMAN because you will notice at the 6 o'clock and the 9 o'clock markers that the sort of markers have the vague appearance of the 1980s video game character of Pac-Man. You know, see it if you see it, if you don't, you don't. But actually, it is an Art Deco design, which actually is very, very easy on the eye, easy to see. All of those indices and the hour hands, the minute hand, and there's a marker on the second hands, which are filled with super luminova. So nice and easy to see. This particular model is the date model, so you see there's a date window at the 3 o'clock position. Equally, this model is available in a no date variant, and it's also, the dial is available in a number of different variations. So you can have the indices in a sort of faux, sort of yellowy colour. You can have it with sort of a jellyfish emblem in the centre over the rotor arm as well. So yeah, interesting options available. Also available with numerals for the indices, which really does show the Panerai sort of DNA which is available or visible within this watch. Threaded screw down crown, which is really where this watch comes into its own. It's water resistance performance. This watch has 1,000 meters of water resistance. Yes, you heard that right. 3,300 feet of water resistance. And actually, there is the automatic helium escape valve on the side, which would allow you to, you know, if you were so inclined, to undertake some saturation diving using this watch. It's not something I would ever have the occasion to give it a run for, but there we go. It's nice to know it has that capability. A truly capable, rugged, well put together watch. How does it wear? So let me tell you about the aesthetics and the wearing experience on the wrist. Well, as soon as I opened the box and I saw this watch, I felt an attraction to it. There is a certain masculinity of, I think, that all metal bezel, because we're so used today to seeing anodized aluminium, painted aluminium, or ceramic inserts in our bezels. It is nice to see just a simple metal finish, and it instills a sense of ruggedness, of sportiness. This really does look like a tool watch. This isn't a boulevard watch, which is just going to be something worn on the wrists of the rich and idle as they take their coffee at the cafe culture. This is a watch which I think really gives me the sense of value that it's tough and it can perform. That 1,000 meters of water resistance, truly remarkable. Of course, we're never going to test that capability, but there is a certain satisfaction, a comfort in the knowledge that your watch is over-engineered to such a degree that it can withstand that level of the elements, the water, so you're never going to have a problem with it getting wet. Its size is pretty good as well. 39 millimeters on a nice cushion shaped case means it sits quite squat, and it's ideal for, I would say, the medium to smaller wristed guy. I mean, I've got a 6.5 inch wrist, which is, I guess, towards the smaller end of medium, and this fits like a dream. It wears better than some of the much more expensive watches that I have in my collection. I also like the fact that it's a watch which will easily be interchangeable with different straps. You can opt for a couple of different metal bracelets. This is the brown leather option. There's also a tropical sort of waterproof plastic strap, which is ideal for if you are going in and out of the water all the time. So aesthetically, on the wrist, it wears well and it looks good. I also really like the dial. A black background, minimal writing, nice white indices that are easy to see. They're full of superluminova, so if you need to look at the watch in reduced light situations, it's going to perform for you. You're going to be able to read this. If you were underwater in murky visibility, you'd be able to see this quite readily. I think it's good to know it's there, and it has that capability. Well, no watch is perfect. There are pros and cons to every timepiece, and this is no different. Let me tell you about the pros to start with. Now, first of all, I would say the thing I've enjoyed most of this watch is the ergonomics on the wrist. It wears very well. It conforms to my wrist size, it is comfortable, and it has been a dream to wear. Unlike many high-performing dive watches, this isn't a great giant hunk of metal. It's compact, it's nice and easy to wear on a day-to-day basis. I like the heritage look of the piece. That's a definite pro for me. It looks like it comes from the sort of recent bygone era. It's over 50 years old in its design, yet it is contemporary as well. It's one of those watches introduced in the 1960s, which wears perfectly in the modern era. Let's be honest, men's watch styles, they haven't varied significantly, but this one has that hint of heritage, but with that modern capability. Modern movement inside, fabulous water resistance. It's got also a nice power reserve. You can put it down, it's going to tick for a few days. It's a good all-round performer. The final thing I would say is a pro about this Navada Grenchen Depthmaster is there's an element of the niche about it. You can walk into a room with other watch aficionados. They may be wearing Omegas, Rolexes, Breitlings, Oris, whatever it may be. You might get a few of the more stylish people who might have a Nomos or a Sin. But I bet there'll be few people wearing a Navada Grenchen. But this watch definitely has the chops to be in that level of competition. These watches are niche, yes, but it is a genuine Swiss designed and assembled watch with a Swiss movement inside. This is the equal of many of those brands that I have just mentioned, for sure, and in some cases it outperforms them considerably. So if there are pros, there's got to be cons. And in this case, I would say the negatives to this watch may be its lack of versatility in a sartorial situation. It is fair to say this really looks like a tool watch, a rugged and tough watch, which I would suggest will reduce its ability to be worn in perhaps more formal situations. So if you're a gentleman and you tend to wear formal clothing, maybe a blazer or a suit to work, and you only wish to own one watch which is going to do you for all of the situations in your life, this is not really a watch that I suggest you could wear with a suit. It's just not that aesthetic. It's designed and its look is all about adventurousness, about being at the cutting edge of going out into the world and exploring. This perhaps is not the watch for wearing with a suit. And the only other thing I could think about, and I had to think hard to find a negative, is the fact that its size. Whilst I think the size is great because I've got a relatively small wrist, if you're a gentleman who has perhaps an 8-inch wrist or a 7.5-inch wrist, and you like the larger watch, this watch does wear like a 39mm watch. So if you like your sports watches to be big and domineering on your wrist, this little Navada Grenchen Depthmaster probably isn't going to be the watch for you because it isn't super huge. For me, that's one of its pros, but for you, it may be a con. That's why I mention it. So what is my final summary of my time with this Navada Grenchen Depthmaster? Well, I think you can tell. I have really enjoyed my 2 weeks with this watch, and I'm going to be sorry to put it back in its box and send it back to the Navada Grenchen people at the end of this review. And it's quite something to say that, because I actually, to trial this watch, I took off my Rolex GMT Master 2 stainless steel Pepsi variety, and I put that in the safe and I put this fella on. And you would think that's quite a watch to follow. That Rolex, considered to be a really strong performer in the watch world, tough act to follow. Not at all. This little Depthmaster has absolutely filled its space on my wrist, and I've enjoyed it enormously. I've really resonated with the sort of heritage look of this watch, its quirkiness, the fact that it is not something you see every day, that it's got remarkable underwater performance, and it truly looks like an adventurous tool watch that can do the business. And that's something which is rare in this modern world and has been a pleasure to experience. So there we go. That's my final assessment. This watch, at its price point of around about £750, depending on the strap option that you choose, I think represents good value for money, and I shall certainly be recommending it to people who are interested in something a little different, something a little bit out there. Why not? Life is too short to be boring. So, I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, I would be delighted if you would give us a thumbs up. Click the red button if you're not already a subscriber. If you'd like to practically support the channel, of course, you can buy me a coffee, and there's a link to the Buy Me a Coffee webpage in the description box below. So, until the next time, take care of yourselves, wear your watches with pride and passion, and I will see you again very soon.